Hello, everyone.
Hey, how you going?
I'm Jeff.
I'm Jason.
Yeah, you've always been.
I have. Oh, God, have I?
Yes. There's been a few times when I'm like, is that Jason? Right? So,
Yeah,
Jason, what should we talk about today?
Actually, I wanted to talk about recording guitar.
Big face.
Specifically with microphones and placement of microphones. And getting beginning the best way to get a tone for a guitar recording if you've never done it before, first time recording.
Oh, yeah.
To getting into more difficult stuff, but yet yielding maybe some great effects once you learn how to really do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think this is an important subject because most of you at home, right, we have some type of direct recording options nowadays.
Yeah.
Either something in your DAW that's already existing, to some multi-effects processor that you can use to get direct into recording stuff like that.
Even iPhones now have the little guitar rig thing you plug right into it.
There's all kinds of different ways to record direct. So what we're going to focus on today, because I think that would be a great thing to talk about some of those guys later.
Sure.
But today we're going to talk about actually using a real actual microphone in front of a real actual amplifier, and
it's real.
See what we can come up with as far as a conversation.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
Yeah.
So first thing is number one of the things you're going to run into with recording a live guitar with a live microphone is you should probably be loud.
Yeah. I mean,
well, and by loud I mean your amp should be at the volume you like to hear your amplifier.
Right. Yeah. So you get your tone the way you like it at a volume that's.
Yeah. It's not about loud for loud's sake.
No. It's not because you have to.
But if you want to get all the power sag, all the
get
dynamics of your amplifier. Now, and of course there are, we spoke about once, basically voltage attenuators versus reactive load attenuators, be your right, and bring your volume down. And if you like your tone that way, that's fine to put a microphone in front of that. You don't necessarily need to be loud for loud's sake. No. Right? There is some advantages to speaker distortion.
True.
Right. There's also some disadvantages. Right.
Well, I was going to say, doesn't recording too low of a volume of the microphone, because you have to crank the preamp, increase noise levels too for recording, it's a little noisy.
Well, it can, right?
So nowadays, I guess stuff's better than it used to be. I just remember like the 4-tracks and things like that, trying to do home recordings at night, and you're doing all you hear is just shh, and your guitar's underneath that noise.
Well, as a general statement, I think guitar players, there's gain by volume,
right, and
gain by preamp.
Right, exactly.
Right. Yeah. So I always have this feeling like, when I hit with 1 pound of pressure on my pick, what does it output? Okay. And I think as we are louder, right, we can have our gain on our input down.
Yes, louder you go, gain comes down.
Because we're getting the gain from that 1 pound of pressure from that pick has that impact, that force that I like.
Yeah. And it's driving the.
And as I turn down my power amp, then what happens is I start turning up my gain. Now, in general, as a recording thing, I will tell you, as a producer and recording many millions of guitar tracks, you will probably find that you want to try and use less gain when possible when tracking, right? You want the sustain, you want the feel and the expression, but in general, the more compressed it gets without any dynamics to it, from too much preamp gain, sometimes it can kind of sit a little stale in the mix, right?
Yeah, it gets hard to mix it.
Yeah, so if you can get some if you can clean it up a little bit and get some punch, but don't go to the point of being punch without the tone you want. So dial in your tone for sure. You want exactly right.
Yeah, but I guess if you can lean back, especially if you can get volume, that's going to help with you cranking the gain down. I mean, as a player, playing with your guitar and the experience.
Oh yeah. Right. Well, and some players like to record with their monitors up loud, or play in the room with their amplifier, so they can get that experience as a guitar player and help the whole track. But for our conversation today, there's really just where do I place the microphone? Why do I place the microphone? And what am I going to do?
Yeah, and what's a good mic to start with?
So the first things that everybody will tell you is to start with which microphone.
Oh yeah, well 57 always comes off. I mean, that's always, because you walk into any club, you go up there, you're doing sound check, the first thing you see the sound guy does, puts a 57 in front of your cabinet.
Right, and if they're horrible, you'll see a 58.
Okay, well there's that. Yeah, there's that. Yeah. So that's that's always my instance as a player, and just because of that experience, and it's always been a 57.
Yeah, well, but not always. See like a 609, like a Sennheiser 609, the flat one.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I've seen that. Right. I have seen that with
because it's really nice. You don't stress.
Yeah, I have seen that.
And both are really pretty good, reasonable tones.
Are they both dynamic mics?
They are both dynamic mics.
Dynamic mics. Okay.
So most microphones fall into one of several categories. There is a dynamic microphone, there is a condenser microphone, and there is a ribbon microphone. Right. That is our basic worlds. You will hear people when they're talking about recording for our generation. It was always start with a 57.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
The past,
I think that's the first. I think I bought a 57 because you had to have one because that's what you're going to record guitar with.
Yes, and sometimes we would substitute that or mix and match with another dynamic microphone, which was famous, which was the Sennheiser 421.
Oh,
right.
They use that on guitar a lot.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. It's often used for drum toms, and it's also
I use it drums.
It looks like you could shave with it.
Yes,
but don't do that. Right, it's not a good shaver. Right, it's not very close. There's no track 2 effect going on there. Unless you're recording a second track.
Oh, then you
get track 2 effect. Bucket of fish. But the truth is that a dynamic microphone that tends to be a little bit bright and honky in the 2 to 3K range tends to work really well for guitar, sits well in a mix.
Okay.
As you at home are starting to do stuff, you will hear people mention ribbon mics. Okay, so dynamic microphones, basically, they have nothing exciting the diaphragm, and they are excited by volume. In other words, volume hits the microphone, and they're almost like reverse speakers. The diaphragm moves back and forth. As it moves back and forth, it creates, because it's passing a coil, just like a guitar pickup.
Exactly.
It creates a small voltage. It goes to a transformer, right? And the transformer ups the voltage.
Right, gotcha. Right? Okay.
And that goes into a mic pre, and you're working. In general, if you look at them, if you take a in a scientific lab, right?
Science,
right? If you look at them, they actually distort on transients. If things are really fast, they actually have a little bit of distortion on them because they can't handle them.
Oh, so actually, that's hard time tracking.
Yeah. Right? They have a little bit of super fast. If I try to put a 15K hertz tone into something like that, they can't respond very, very, very well.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay,
right?
Interesting.
Which is on the opposite end of the spectrum. You hear people talk about condenser microphones. Condenser microphones, they have a voltage that's sitting on top the, think of it as a little speaker, the diaphragm.
Right.
And the diaphragm is sitting there electrically charged, ready to move.
Right.
And it responds very, very fast.
Oh, see what you're saying, right? Yeah. Hence versus a
right. So a condenser microphone will generally pick up fast transients and things like that, which is why we use it for something like fast and transient, like an acoustic guitar.
Right, I got you.
Right. And dynamic microphones, because you're putting them in front of a guitar amplifier, which usually is got excessive volume, right? They can handle all the dynamics.
Right, you can hit them hard.
You're force feeding it.
Yeah.
The common thing when we were young, if you looked at any recording from the 60s, 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, was an SM57.
Right.
Guitar amps were loud. Nowadays, we do much better at keeping our volume down.
That's true,
Smaller amps.
True, smaller amps, yeah.
And the more common thing is now to use, common one is the Royer R121, right, which is a ribbon microphone.
Okay.
That can handle volume. Not all ribbon microphones.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I didn't think they could. So.
And it's usually done in combination with a 57.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting about this is that for years, my thing has been, if you're a new novice, if I were, and I've done this to you, right? Because you used to use those Rode NT.
Yeah, the Rode NT1.
Right. Yeah. And we did a lot of recordings with those, and they were freaking great.
Yeah,
they're affordable, they're good microphone.
Yeah, like $299 or something. $399.
What's nice about a condenser microphone or a ribbon microphone is that if you take a dynamic microphone, what happens if you plug it in the middle of the cone and move it around?
Oh yeah, it starts to sound like a phaser. It's that cone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
filtering.
Think of microphones almost like a flashlight. If I took a flashlight and I back up in a room,
or speaker or microphones, you mean?
The microphone itself.
Oh, okay, the microphone itself. Okay.
So as I back up, if I took a little flashlight.
Right. Okay.
When I'm this close to something, it's a little beam.
Oh, right. Yeah,
as I back up, the beam gets bigger.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah.
So condenser microphones, their aperture on their beam is very wide.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah.
Right. A ribbon microphone is not only wide this way, but it's also wide all the way around. It picks up the room. It's actually a figure 8 pattern.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah, because it's a ribbon mic, so it's going to be. Yeah. Gotcha. It's not focused in any way.
It's very non-focused, and it's not one spot. It's like over like a couple inches. Right. So you can very easily with a ribbon mic place a microphone as a novice and have not too much problem getting a decent tone.
Gotcha, okay.
You can very easily, as a novice, take a condenser microphone and place it pretty randomly and not have too much problem.
Gotcha.
If you're using a 57,
and the
you can get, and other condensers, like
dynamics.
Other small, right? They're very beamy, right? If you're having trouble with them, and if you're new, you probably will. Right, just back up a little bit so that if you think of that flashlight thing,
right? Yeah, you want to get more of
the flashlight starts to open up as you get further out,
right?
And I'll see more of the cone, right? Because cones are really interesting.
But cone's kind of doing that. Well, no, the cone's just projecting out in its sort of shape. But yeah, the microphone. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because how much of that area that the speaker's putting out you're picking up.
Yes, and if you don't have a good experience, also putting multiple microphones on stuff.
Yeah, that's a trip. I actually never knew that until I seen you do it.
Yeah.
Like two right next to each other and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a kind of a trip.
Right. Well, it's like one of the first people I talked to about that was I had a dinner with Eddie Kramer once.
Oh, that's cool.
Right, and he was telling me that for recording Hendrix, he always put 5 microphones around his cone.
5?
5 microphones.
Holy. Okay.
Right, and they were everything you would expect. Right, except for one that we always forget about, which is one of my favorite guitar microphones, which is the M160.
By who?
I think it's Electro Voice, M160.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Right? Oh, God. It's a condenser microphone, but it looks like a dynamic microphone. It's got a big head on the front of it, and it looks like almost like a 58, right?
Oh, but is it really skinny, though?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Right.
I know what you're talking about. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do know what you're talking about, yeah.
So he would put, an M160, a 421, like 257s, and...
That's crazy.
Right? And he'd put them all at perfect different distance. Now... First question out of my head was like, "Are you having phase issues?" Right?
Yeah, because I was gonna say sometimes you put microphones.
Yeah, right. Well, so as it turned out, if they're all at the same distance, they don't have any phase issues.
Oh, so you couldn't put them like this way? They have to be like this. You mean like the same distance? Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if you're gonna let's explain that. Right. Distance. Do you know the 3-to-1 rule?
Yeah. Wait. I do know this. Wait. Hold on. I do know this. God, I don't remember. Go ahead. So you've told me this before. Go ahead. I think the wheel's spinning. I think the hamster's dead.
Why is the wheel spinning then if the hamster's dead?
No, go ahead. What is? I know.
Can we retitle this episode "The Hamster's Dead"?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. No, go ahead. What is it?
Well, let's write a song.
Okay. Wheel spinning, but the hamster's dead. So what is it?
Which reminds me of a totally inappropriate story, but I'm going to go there for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So I'm like 13 years old.
Okay.
Phone rings. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm like 12, 13 or something like that. And the phone rings, and there's this girl on the line who goes, "The rabbit is dead," and then hangs up on me. Right, and I go to my mom who's sitting like right next to me on down on the other couch, and I'm like, "Mom, girl just called and said is Jeff there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's Jeff, right?" And she's like, "The rabbit's dead." She's like, "Oh my God," right? Because she realized that they were referring to the rabbit dies when you're pregnant.
Oh God!
Right now,
oh my God! That's terrible. Right. That's wait. You're like 12 years old.
I know. Well, I was busy.
But no, I know. But oh God. Okay. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's obviously it wasn't happening. I didn't think you had an extra kid there.
Not that I know. But anyways, don't call people and do that because modern tests don't work that way. But back then they did. So
we digressed on the animal train there.
So no hamsters were dead. Were harmed in the filming of this episode. No hamsters or rabbits. Nobody was harmed. Anyways,
so 3-to-1 rule.
3-to-1 rule.
Yeah.
So the 3-to-1 rule is basically that if you have a microphone at any distance,
hold on.
The next microphone needs to be.
It's 3 times the distance from the source of the original one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so a foot from the speaker, the next one has to be 3 feet.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Well, 3 feet in addition to the first.
In addition, no, I'm saying from the first 4 feet, but 3 feet
right.
from the first one, right?
Yeah, so if your first microphone is 1 inch away, then the next one would need to be 4 4 inches away. So it's 3 times the 1 inch.
Right, gotcha.
From the previous one. And then the next one would be 9 inches past that,
gotcha,
which would be
right. It just keeps
13 inches.
Yeah, it just keeps going up. Yeah. Gotcha.
So, and if you break this rule, you start to get comb filtering. Now, comb filtering is a funny little thing in audio, which is that if you tell a speaker to move forward, because speakers move in and out, if you tell it to move forward, at the same time you're trying to tell it to go backwards, guess what it does? It doesn't move, right? And that cancels out those frequencies if they align with each other.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right. So what you want to do is, and there are all kinds of fun things that we do like phasers and
exactly.
Basically phasers, flangers, choruses, they're all dealing with
that
some intentional version of that.
Exactly, yeah.
But speakers themselves, they do, right? So if you're at home and you're pulling up an SM57, which is the common thing that your friend, neighbor, uncle, whoever is going to tell you to run out and buy, number one, it's going to prefer if you're going to be loud. Number two, it will be very very convinced in its tone where you put if you get it really close.
Right.
And you'll hear it.
Yeah. But play with them. That's something you want to sit and play with, I think. I mean, if you're
what I would say for novices, for newbies, right? If you're not used to this at all, just back it up a little bit, because that aperture of that think of it as a flashlight will open up, and you'll see more of the speaker, and you'll have a better chance getting a successful tone. Now, and they can be very finicky. For that, I would suggest for most new players to get a condenser microphone, like that Rode NT1 that you had. That was a great microphone for that kind of thing.
Oh, this is good.
Right? They're $150, $200 or something.
Yeah, I think it retail for $299, so probably around $200.
Yeah. And it's not that it's the best microphone for you to record with as a guitar player. It's that is the shortest distance to success.
Right. You're better luck with a condenser than a dynamic, in the sense of having to place it. You'll luck out more often with
exactly. And same thing with a ribbon microphone, because we were talking about speakers for like PA systems and stuff like that. You see line array speakers, right? And to me, ribbon microphones are just mini line arrays.
Right.
And they see the whole cone, because they're sometimes the ribbon's like that long.
It's long,
And so it's seeing more points along the cone of the speaker. Here's what's interesting about guitar speakers. If you could slow them down and watch them in real time, they wouldn't be in real time if they were slowed down. If you could watch them in slow motion, and see what they're really doing over time, you actually don't see the cone just moving in and out like this. You see distortions moving in and out this way.
Right.
But you will also see these things that look like shark fins, and they pop up in the cone and they run around it.
Wow, that's a trick. Okay.
Right? And this is the speaker distortion that you're dealing with. We'll have another episode where we'll talk about how to catch an IR properly, because people do IRs and capture them. Okay. And this is the thing that can totally screw up an IR. Right, by the way.
Meaning infrared modeling or modeling?
Meaning impulse response.
Oh, impulse response. My IR to me is infrared. I think, okay. Okay, impulse response.
Jason watches too many tech shows that are not guitar related.
Yeah, lots of science stuff that's not guitar stuff.
So Jason actually has a number that if you multiply it by a number, the math inside your head would be so intense that it would create a black hole.
Yeah, it's Graham's number.
Yeah.
It's called Graham's number. Yeah, you can't do the equation in your head.
I don't want to blow up.
I don't want to know.
Right? Come on, we like these people. We don't want to start a black hole. Right?
Okay.
Right. But for a speaker cone, there are these little things, and they look like little shark fins that pop up.
You know what's funny? I think I've seen that, because I've seen stuff on YouTube. Of course, there's guys that mess with it, but they'll do sometimes water, and then what else do they do? Was it like not carbon fiber, not like when you do the magnet thing, but something like that, where you could see the form lays. Maybe it is that. Where via resonance they'll show up, but there'll be patterns that do move oddly and stuff like that, and do things.
Well, you'll see different drum heads too.
Yes, drum head. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think you use what's called an interferometer.
Yes.
Right. Which is the same thing that we look for to see if a planet is circling the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or if we look at stars
to see if
planets are around it with an interferometer.
Get the dip.
Right. So we can go totally nerdy in multiple directions. Right?
That's true. Well,
we did a math nerd. We just did a science space nerd.
Well, and my buddy,
speaker
my friend Jason Mazilis just did a thing with JPL. They had on the last thing, what do you call it, or rover, whatever we launched just recently to Mars. On there, I don't know if you saw any, but there was video and audio of the landing. Now, audio doesn't work in space, but these are close microphones that can pick up. They're right there. They can pick up the landing of it, and they actually will come off the ship. And they were designed that when they fall and roll, no matter how they roll, they're always looking at it. The position's always up.
Oh, really?
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, he's a guitar player, dude. He's just an engineer, but he had these ideas. And he's a big space guy, and just came up with these stuff.
Another famous guitar player, tech nerd, right, would be Jeff Skunk Baxter.
Yes, he is something.
Right. Well, he works for the Department of Defense.
That's right. Yeah, I was gonna say that was CIA, but no, it's defense.
Right.
Sective.
In like the '80s or something like that. He's like.
That's right. He's like
he played with Steely Dan and all these great players, right? And
Doobie Brothers too.
Doobie Brothers, right?
A million like
albums between sessions and stuff like that. Couldn't be a more amazing guitar player. Super nice guy, by the way, right?
But it's like totally like government.
But he had come up with some tech stuff, right, about war and stuff, and he wrote some white paper, and eventually it pulled him into
that whole world,
the whole world, right? And he's still doing sessions and stuff like that, right? But
he's like, check out my cool licks. What I'm thinking about.
I remember doing a session with him, on some stuff, like 2-3 years ago. Right, and then the next day he's like, I gotta leave early. I gotta catch a plane to be back in DC. Right, and the next day I see him on CNN next to the president.
Oh wow!
I'm like, but you're a guitar player, right?
You're one of us. Well, what happened?
What happened? Right. So
that's like Jason, him doing that thing. I'm just amazed at. It's like, dude, you're like a rock guitar player, engineer guy, and here you are.
Guess what? Guitar players can be smart too. Right?
They can.
Right.
Sometimes.
Not all of them are like, it's not the classic, what's a guitar player who doesn't have a girlfriend?
Yeah, homeless?
Homeless, yeah. Not all of us fall into that category. Well, let's not talk about that.
Let's not discuss our shortcomings.
So let's go back to microphones for a second.
Anyway,
so
we digressed again.
Speakers themselves.
So that shark thing distortion.
So what's happening is when you have the speaker cone, we think of it just moving in and out like that, but there's a lot of complex stuff that's going on there. And when you put a small microphone like an SM57, it's only seen, like it's like looking at like 1 inch. It can get stuck into seeing a very defined portion of the speaker.
Right, exactly, yeah. So right? That's why you sometimes be really, really bright or odd or something.
Exactly, putting it off axis versus on axis, backing it out. So if you don't know what you're doing, just back up a little bit.
Yeah, that was always my thing. I don't know where I got it, if I saw it or I heard it, but it was always the thing is off to the side and about 6 to 8 inches back is what I always did. It was just an instant boom, boom, and boom, play. That was always my thing.
Yeah.
And just, it always, I don't know if it did work, but I thought it worked.
Well, and it kind of, it's kind of situational. Like, so
well, also would cabinets matter? It's like a 412 versus a 112. The compression, does the things change to make the speaker
yes.
move?
Let me mention what I'm going to right? Because we got to talked way too much because that's what we do.
God, my God.
So if you look at a speaker, right? You've got the paper cone, you've got the ripples that go inside the paper cone, and then you got the paper diaphragm around there.
Right. The cut. Yeah.
One standard rule that a lot of people will do with a 57, an E609, or any kind of dynamic microphone, and it works pretty much for all of them. There's like two different like visual audible ways to get an okay tone if you don't know what you're doing. Number one is to basically make the microphone. So imagine this is the circle that's the paper cone around the outside of the thing.
Right.
You can see, the speaker goes this way, and then there's like this little paper dust cap on top of it. Is to put the microphone so it's 50-50 over the edge of whatever.
So over the dome and that pivot right point in there. Okay.
Right. That would be your standard on-axis thing that a lot of people do.
Gotcha.
The next is to do it off axis and shoot.
Oh, so you're actually going hitting it sideways in a sense, so, or angled.
Yeah, so go to the other side of it and point at the other side.
But while staying in this position, just doing that as opposed to moving over. Okay.
The off-axis thing is a little bit weird because depending on the brand of speaker you're at, it will either get brighter or darker. Right. Oh. So I think it's 50. Celestians will get darker, and Jensen's will tend to get brighter.
Okay, that's probably why I would, because I play Celestians generally. I'm always pulling that back and to get that darker. Yeah,
exactly. The third way that is really common is that, like, if you pay attention, you got these rings that go out. So your frequency response is your high frequencies are here. Your lowest frequencies, they go out to the ridge. So this ridge might be 250 hertz. That ridge might be 500 hertz. That one might be. So it's lower frequency as you move out.
Okay.
A common thing to do is to take the cone, and if you think of it as a flat plane for a second, it's going to be brightest in the center, and as you slide out, it's going to get dark.
Okay.
So more of a 90s thing, right? Because grunge, they like to roll off a little bit of the high end, and so it was to take it out to the edge, and there's a point where all of a sudden it'll start to get dark. Right, and you get like right, like a little, right, and kind of put it just a little bit on the edge of that, right there, and that's also a very successful place to go, right?
I didn't know that one. Okay.
Right? So if you don't know what you're doing, take the little round dust cap, shine a light inside your speaker cone, put it right 50%. That's a good way. The second way is to point from the other side, but at the same thing. I love the visual.
I was just gonna say, I was looking.
I'm like, this is not like
it's an eye exam.
It's not like a gang symbol or anything like that, right? It's not like right. But it's to point at the other side and point towards the same place on the cone.
Gotcha.
Another way to go is to go out to the edge, right, and listen to right there. At that spot where it falls off. That's also a good place.
Okay.
But if you don't know anything, just really back up a little bit. You're usually going to be better off.
Yeah. Right? And plus, also, at a certain point too, you could go back farther. Now you're getting room. So if you have a condenser mic, you'd be able to get more of that versus a dynamic ending kit.
So like you and I are both big Brian May fans.
Yes.
Right. If you search the internet, you can find there are lots of Brian May sessions and Queen sessions that have been leaked out and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there's lots of recording stuff.
Oh yeah,
for sure, yeah.
Right, I've got a bunch of myself that I've acquired. One of the things interesting is that you'll find that he'll do 3 or 4 tracks of guitar track. Like I was just listening to Death on Two Legs.
Yes, that's a good song.
And there is
so good.
They're labeled. So whoever copied them and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Right. Whenever they were transferring them, they're actually labeled as room mics.
Oh.
All right, and it's 3 or 4 separate takes that are all audibly done at a good 12 to 20 feet away.
You're hearing the room.
You are hearing the room.
Wow, okay.
Right. There's only one that's close-ish, and it's not even that close-ish.
Gotcha.
You can hear a lot of room in it, right?
Okay.
So, and I've met a lot of producers and stuff like that like to be 6 feet out with a condenser microphone loud, because that is it's what the guitar players used to hearing.
Right, yeah, exactly. Guitar player position. I guess that makes sense.
Because one of the things you do get is I love 412 cabinets for my Marshalls and things like that. I love, if I'm playing an AC30, of course I love the combo 212 AC30 cabinet for what it does.
It sounds amazing, yeah. Especially the open back, get a little bit of that.
Exactly, right. But, part of its tone is that open back.
Right, exactly.
So if I eat the cone, I'm not getting much of that open back at all.
No, not at all, are you?
Right. Yeah. So getting some room inside of there is a big thing that I like.
Do people mic the back and the fronts?
Yes, a common
thing. Like if you didn't have the room volume,
a very, very common one for people. So for years, people talk about recording with small amplifiers, right? Fender Champ.
Ah, yes, Champ.
Classic Fender freaking
Montrose Rock Candy.
Oh yes. Yeah. Why is it so big?
Yeah, it's a freaking Tweed Champ dimed.
It's a Tweed Champ dimed with a microphone on the front of it.
Okay.
And another one in the back.
Really? In the back too?
Inside the cabinet area underneath.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right, but sometimes you have to flip the phase on them.
Oh, right, okay.
Because you got a forward backwards phase. Phase. Let's talk about that. We kind of mentioned it a little bit ago, which is that if you have 2 of the same frequencies, one going positive, telling the speaker to move out,
right, and one going
negative, and one telling it to go backwards, then the speaker decides to go nowhere.
When you go surfing, that happens sometimes. If you get a cross wave, so the two waves will hit in the middle.
Oh, dude.
It's really neat.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we've touched on math. We've touched on space. We've touched on science. And now surfing, right? And we did touch on rabbits and hamsters.
People are getting a lot for your money here. It's a full-filled show.
There's money?
Well, yeah.
I mean, at least just chip in for the beer money. That's all we ask for.
Anyway, go ahead. So so they collide. You get the cancellation, right? Yeah.
So if you did try and do something like put a microphone in the front of a speaker and one in the back at the same time, well, what's happening is the speaker's moving negative on one and positive on the the other. If I put those both, you get nothing. You get nothing, or you get a really thin thing for any variations or differences and so that. It's basically anything that's identical would get canceled out.
Gotcha.
Anything that's not. So if you have some distortion in one microphone versus the other, right? They would some things would come through, but it would be very thin and small, right? So usually you have a phase switch on your mic pre. Flip the phase, and then they can both work together. But I've gotten some bigger, depthier, bigger than more depth than like a rectifier, boogie to rectifier from a champ with the mic in the front and the back.
In the back, because you're getting that whole different thing from the back too. You're getting that
yes, which gets into a whole other discussion.
Yeah, because I was gonna say because there's also closed back tiny 112s versus a closed back 412. That little one's is that like more compression? Does it interfere with speaker movement?
Yes. So what happens is several things. A 412 or closed back cabinet has speaker compression inside the box, meaning that the speaker wants to move in and out, but there's either a vacuum when it moves out, or a compression when it pushes in because of the air. Because of that, it does change the throw of the speakers in the room, what you're actually experiencing. And
I would think that it would push out a little bit more and less in. If it's compressed with air that way.
Well, it's negative compression. It's causing a vacuum when it comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is paper, so.
It gives. I get it, but I mean, but these are still some minutia. But at the same time, it's effective. It does change.
Oh yeah. All right. So it's a little bit of an asymmetrical clipping because it is positive on one point and the other point is right. Okay. A open back cabinet. Now, people don't really realize why open back cabinets came about. Let's just mention this.
No.
Which is, if you went to an amplifier that was built pre-60s, let's say. Let's take a classic one. A Bassman 1958.
Okay, 58 Bassman.
Right? Which way do the knobs point?
Oh yeah. You have to lean over the speaker because
they're on the back.
Yeah.
They're backwards.
But they're backwards, so you have to be in front of the amp to read them straight.
Why, friends in the
Well, that was because
you're supposed to stand behind.
You're supposed to be behind it because you're in the jazz bands and all that. It was always in front.
Either a jazz band, you're behind it, or a rock band, and they put them on the front of the stage because they were the PA system. So having the speaker be open in the back meant that you had a monitor system, and the audience had a PA system.
Gotcha. I didn't think about that. That's pretty okay. All right.
Right. So AC30.
That makes sense.
We both love AC30s.
Yeah. I love mine. Right? Yeah, I didn't think about that.
The knobs face the wrong direction. Why?
Yeah. Well, I always say because I've seen those like when you'll see the big band setups. Like that. They'll always be the guys on the rows. Example. Yeah, and they'll have and the amp will be in front. And if you look at all amps, the knobs read this way. If you're on stage and you have your Fender, what do you call it, Blues DeVille or whatever back there, and you go over to the knobs, and not everything's read upside down because it was meant to be up there.
It was meant to be in front of you. That's exactly what it was.
That's pretty cool.
Right? Yeah. Right, because PA systems were awful.
They were barely PA systems.
Well, and if you think of like Hendrix playing live and stuff like that, like do you remember when you were a kid in like the 80s and you went to see a whatever famous band that it was? You're in whatever Coliseum you're in, 20,000 seat arena, and you can see down there and you can see 4, 6, 8, 16 4x12s, right? And you hear the guitar tech come out and she's like, and the room is like, guitar tone.
Yeah.
And the PA isn't even on yet. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's pretty right. Yeah, that's when guys actually played through a lot of this.
Nowadays, people don't do that. In-ear monitors. Whole other discussion, which we're going to get into very soon.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
Right? Yeah. We talked about that earlier today, right? We want to get into that. But in general, back to our focus of conversation because we've hit several other topics. Squirrels.
There's a lot of our road has lots of offs and ons, if you will.
Right? Do you want to talk about a cool movie or anything like that? Because we've talked about a bunch of other things. Okay. So, the big thing is miking guitar cabinets. You can very easily step into crap if you get too close to that microphone. So first thing, if you're not content, start backing up.
Yeah, I mean, and it really does come. I mean, it's like, this is one thing I've learned. Just don't accept just where you put it and say that's how it's going to be. Because I mean, you know, if you're listening to stuff and you don't, and you're like, you've seen them live, let's say, and they have a great, whoever the band may be, that sounds amazing, but then you listen to records and then a little shot, so it didn't sound as cool as it did live. That could have been a simple thing on the guitar tone of something like that. So, like, if you're play with it, learn it. You know, if you're a home recorder, jank, 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 move that sucker around, jank, jank, get that sound. You know what I mean? That's what I think. I don't know, because I didn't think of that when I was young. Well, when I was starting to record, I didn't think about like moving the mic around, really, like trying sounds. I just went like, well, that's the way it's supposed to sound. Now I'm supposed to dial it in.
And there can be two different philosophies on it. One, which is that I really like my guitar tone, capture it. And the other can be like, ooh, if I put it here, it's a little this. If I put it here, it's a little this. Right? But, and so please experiment with that. But
I just think it's another palette of creation of sound. It's another way to create tones.
It can be, it can be strong. Like,
it can be really bad coloring that day or really good coloring.
Your amp tone in a mix has this much power. Right. Your speaker cabinet tone has this much power, and your microphone placement has this much power. Right? They're very exponential for screwing up things one way or another, right? And I think it's all quite cool and important. But again, the three types of microphones. Let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. Number one, dynamic microphones. Dynamic microphones generally are going to work better if you're loud. They generally, if you don't know where to place them, will be more successful if you pull them back a little bit. Condenser microphones, they're more responsive. You don't have to be as loud, and because they are typically in a cardioid pattern, they are front facing. Right. You can have your amp at a decently low volume. Right. So if we're going to try and record in this room, for example, that amp right there, it's not going to pick up too much of my guitar pick. Right. If I'm at a lowish volume, and its placement, because it's a larger diaphragm and it looks at a wider area, it's going to generally be more successful most of the time.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, sure. That makes sense.
A ribbon microphone, which is the common norm that you're seeing right now, is actually a ribbon microphone with a SM57 side by side. Right. So like a R121 from Royer is very common, along with a right. What's nice about the Royer is because it's a long piece, it sees more of the cone. Right. It sees more of a dispersion. It's not so focused. Some short, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so it's very successful. It's very hard to get a bad tone with it. Okay. Right. I like and that. Then the 57 has a little bit of the like 3K honk that we get from that we like for guitar to sit in a mix. Cut through. Okay. But the problem with those is that if you're in a home studio and you're not too far from an acoustic, like Jason, roll off your volume.
Oh, roll it off like this. Right.
Yeah. So.
Oh, they'll pick that up. Oh, I have that issue a lot.
Oh, I know you're big. Yeah. A lot of the demos you send me, I can.
Because I'm right there. My cabinet's right there. It's like in my little room, and it's all just picking all that up.
Yeah. It's because it's a hypercardioid pattern. Right? Okay. So I'm sorry, it's a figure 8 pattern. Right. So it's picking up the speaker, an 8 this way, and it's picking up the room basically at the same ratio.
Oh, okay. So it's picking up all my...
Yeah, right. Yeah. So dynamics are great because they're so focused like this.
Right, yeah, because
condensers are a little bit more open, and ribbons are like everywhere, right?
It's a party.
It's a party, right? Which, by the way, if you really like that ribbon sound, but you don't have the ability to do it, you can kind of fake it a little bit. One of the ways is to take a 57 and just put it straight down.
Okay.
Right. So your speaker's here.
So it's blowing past the diaphragm that way.
Yes, because you're basically picking up the same amount of sound here as you are over here.
Oh, I see.
So you'll get the acoustics of the room and stuff like that, right? And you get that figure 8 pattern ish, right? That's a cheap way to kind of.
Could you put? This is me being creative. Could you put a 57 and a 57 like this?
You could.
And they wouldn't phase out? Anything weird? Or would you have to flip them?
No, they'd be fine.
Because you're at the same distance.
Yeah.
I'm going to try that. That sounds kind of cool. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Here's the fun thing. Guitar tone is fun. You don't have to mimic every one of your guitar heroes. You can be unique, and I encourage you all to try stupid stuff. right? Which that might be brilliant, and that might be the thing that everybody from 2030 to 2040 does, right?
It's true. You never know.
You might come up with the perfect thing. I've done stupid stuff like literally like setting like a speaker on top of a microphone. Like I had a PZM once, and I just tried to set it on top of it, right?
Yeah.
Just to see what would happen.
What happened?
It was squirrely. I mean, I recorded it because who doesn't like squirrely? But
Right. We just brought squirrels into it now.
Okay, so squirrels, rabbits, hamsters. Do we have anywhere else to go with that?
No, let's just stop now.
Because I'm pretty sure if I say anything else, I'm going to get myself in trouble.
That's awesome.
All right. So everyone, when it comes to microphones, there are a lot of generalized rules, but there is, in all honesty, a lot of fun to be had.
Yeah, definitely.
Microphones are super fun.
Take the time, play with it.
Please experiment. Please don't feel like you have to get the guitar tone of your Guitar Hero. Right, it's when fun, you catch that weird tone, and it's the best thing, money for nothing.
Yeah, what a tone! That's an interesting tone.
That is such a weird, interesting tone. They were placing microphones and amps near walls and stuff like that, and they cannot reproduce it, from what I've heard. They've not.
Was it like a lucky thing that it just?
It was just a lucky accident.
That sucks, man.
So the only thing I encourage you to do is that if you do anything stupid cool, and I think you will, comment below and tell us how you did it, because we'd like to do the same stupid cool thing.
Yeah, take photos of your setup too, or something.
Take photos, share it, because if you're doing something stupid, we want to share, right?
Exactly. Stupid can be really cool.
Stupid is cool, right? But so that you can get back to the same tone, and really, so many guitar players are always trying to mimic the sound of other guitar players that they admire.
Sure.
Right, and we're always doing that. Right.
Just tell me about it. I mean, how many times have And I guess, people still love Eddie, but how many times have people tried to cop Eddie's tone?
Which there are so many of them.
It has not stopped up until now. And now more, because he's passed, terrible, but it's insurgence. There's a huge surgence again of Van Halen, of course.
Yeah.
So there's going to be lots of people trying to seek that tone, which is awesome because it's a great tone, man.
Oh, yeah. Very, very.
I mean, it's so good.
Right. Which is way...
That's a whole other...
We could spend hours on that.
That's just like, that's a story, that's a complicated topic on its own, so we'll just...
Yes. Yeah, but have fun with microphones, right? Place them, and if you're struggling, the simplest thing again, if you're struggling, whether it's condenser, a dynamic, or ribbon, most likely, if you just back up a little bit, turn your amp up a little bit, you're probably going to start to be more content.
Yeah.
That's my general, will fix most scenarios 90% of the time, right? Back up, right?
Back it up,
if you're really good at it and you can really get in there with your 57 and place it in the perfect spot, cool, great,
awesome,
great, right? And you'll, more power to you, right? But for those of us that are, just trying to get something successful on tape, that's a great way to do it.
Good way to start,
and we should probably talk about it at another point in time, but I'm a big fan of, one, driving my amp to the point where the transformer is adding some distortion.
Right.
And number two, I'm a big fan of mic pre's that are adding transformer distortion as well.
Oh, sure, okay.
Right,
yeah.
So, something that mimics like a Neve 1073 or an API like 512. These kind of things, even if I'm using something that's like a cab-driven, like an IR-driven device, right? I'd love to take that straight into my mic pre's as if it's a driven microphone, right? Those also make things sit just really fat in the mix. But we'll get into that later, because I can talk for...
I think we both can.
I think we could talk until the squirrels come home, the rabbits come home, and the hamster comes home. Or don't. Right.
We should land the plane.
We should land the plane?
Land the plane. All right, guys. Yeah.
So what are we going to do?
I don't know.
Right. Tell us what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Tell us what you do. If you guys have any really successful tricks for microphones.
Or if you have questions about it, too, because somebody might be like, hey, but you didn't mention, what about this? I've done this before, so there might be something.
Yeah. All right, please, right? Ask us questions, give us ideas, give us thoughts, give us impressions, give us samples of your work, right? Send us a link, right? We'd love to hear it. We'd love to comment on it, and we don't know everything. We just know what we know in our own little bubble, and your bubble is bigger. Right, and so share your bubbles with us.
All right, guys.
Right, that sounds almost like a drug reference, right? Please share your bubbles.
That's really weird.
Right, share your bubbles with your hamster.
All right, let's stop now. Jesus. All right, guys. Well, I'm Jason.
I'm Jeff.
And we'll talk to you soon. See ya.